My name is Paul Barrett and I'm one of the dinosaur researchers behind the scenes here at the Natural History Museum. Our team have recently been looking at an extinct reptile called Scleromochlus, which comes from rocks about 235 million years old that are found up in the northernmost part of Scotland. When we think of fossils like Scleromochlus, often we think about bones. We think about the original bones of the skeleton being there for us to study. But in this case, these animals died, were fossilized, but then while the bones were still entombed in the ground, water percolating through the rock partly dissolved that bone away, making it very soft and often eating away at it completely. As it did that, it left behind natural voids in the rock that were exact replicas of those original bones, which we call natural molds. Scleromochlus has been something of a mystery. It's a tiny animal, and we can see from this specimen that the whole skeleton almost, except part of the tail, is on this one block. So it would have fit quite comfortably into the palm of my hand, would have weighed only a few grams, and was probably an insect eater. These are things that used to be thought to be little reptilian kind of rabbits hopping around because they've got quite long legs. But when we look at the skeleton, other features of it suggest that that wasn't the case, and instead that these are animals that were probably quite agile, small, ground-dwelling runners. Although it's also possible they might occasionally have climbed the odd tree. And it's been thought to be maybe the ancestor of the flying reptiles, but it's also been suggested to be a dinosaur or a crocodile. It's been something of an enigma for paleontologists for nearly a century. And what we've done is bring some new technology to bear on this question that shed light on what this animal actually was. So we've now used CT scanning to fill in these gaps in the rock to make three-dimensional representations of those bones for the first time. And we've also discovered within the blocks themselves some bones that we simply didn't know were there before. Our new images of Scleromochlus really give us some vital new information on its anatomy. And by plugging all of that information into an analysis of its relationship, we're able to pin down where it is in the reptile tree of life for the first time. So it doesn't come out as the ancestor of pterosaurs, as some people suggested. It's not a dinosaur, and it's not a crocodile. Instead, it belongs to a fourth group of Triassic reptiles that are called lagoptids. Lagoptids aren't a particularly large group, and they're not particularly well known. They used to be thought to be something to do with dinosaur origins, but it turns out that actually they're quite closely related, although not the same as, the flying reptiles. So this is the first member of this group from Europe. Before that, they were only known from the Americas and Madagascar, so it significantly expands what we know about where lagoptids lived around the world. So that's a bit of a surprise. But it's also the earliest lagoptid. It's the first one, the most primitive one in their family tree. So it helps to establish what that group's initially looked like. And in turn, that gives us some insights into what the common ancestor of lagoptids and the flying reptiles actually look like. And it also helps us start to fill a gap. The first flying reptiles that we know about already look like flying reptiles. They're fully formed, have all of the specializations to do with flight that we would expect in them. But what this now starts to do is starts to close the window in which we need to search for those ancestors. There's about an 18 million year gap between the ancestors of things like Scleromochlus and the ancestors of the first truly flying reptiles. And this is the window we now need to concentrate on to find those ancestors.